Reborn as a tycoon's daughter, forced into Union University, Yuka's second life was supposed to be a quiet one. Reborn as the sole daughter of the universe's wealthiest magnate, a man whose fortune could buy entire star systems, she sought refuge not in opulence, but in anonymity. She yearned for the simple, the ordinary, a life far removed from the dazzling chaos of the cosmic elite. Her meticulously crafted plan for a low-profile existence was shattered with a single devastating government mandate. She was required to enroll at the prestigious Union University of the Alliance. Hoping to become a forgotten face in a sea of students, Yuka chose the easiest, most unassuming major available. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. Her attempt to blend in was a spectacular failure. Despite her best efforts to remain unnoticed, every minor accident and complex situation on campus seemed to twist itself into a demanding challenge, forcing her to unveil flashes of a brilliant mind and formidable skill set she desperately wished to keep hidden. This is the story of Yuka, a prodigy constantly battling her own nature, trying to maintain a normal life in a world determined to push her into the extraordinary. As she navigates the trials of Union University, she must struggle to keep her true identity a secret, even as her innate greatness keeps pulling her into the spotlight. Chapter 1, Yuka was rudely awakened by her AI butler blasting the Alliance's military march. After silencing the orb, she was hit with shocking news. She had been accepted to the Union University of the Alliance, UUA, despite never taking the entrance exams. Her panic intensified when she read the official admission notice. She immediately contacted customer service and learned the truth. Because she had avoided mandatory education, her Alliance ID listed her as illiterate. The Alliance Population Bureau was forcing her into UUA as a last chance. Failing to graduate meant losing her citizen ID card, which would effectively make her a fugitive. Desperate for a loophole, Yuka mentioned her former home tutor, Konda Nori. The customer service agent informed her that Nori was a highly dangerous, a plus-level Alliance fugitive, wanted for many years, shattering Yuka's final hope. Accepting her fate, Yuka knew she had to enroll. Her only goal was to coast through, avoiding any difficulty or attention. She instructed her butler to find the easiest major at UUA with a high pass rate. The search results pointed to the history department. Yuka immediately filled it in and sent her enrollment form back. She then retreated to her bed, telling the dismayed butler, "I'll never be a lady in this lifetime. Right now I just want to sleep. Oh, send a message to my dad. Tell him I'm going to college." The concerned butler watched her sleep, worrying that Yuka's natural talent for strength and pranks would cause trouble at the prestigious university. Chapter 2, Yuka awoke to her AI butler's usual insistent chatter. After ignoring its attempts to enforce ladylike etiquette during lunch, Yuka connected with her father, Taira Hideki, via video call. Yuka expressed her reluctance to go to university, but her father was unexpectedly firm. He explained that Union University of the Alliance, UUA, was jointly established by the Alliance's most powerful institutions and operated on strict principles of equality. He could not use his influence to help her avoid enrollment or receive special treatment. Yuka resigned herself to going. After the call, Yuka prepared her luggage. Rejecting the huge, excessive suitcases packed by the butler, she condensed her necessities into one small bag and used a valuable spatial button, worth 5 million Astra credits, to store her high-end space levitation vehicle, LEV, and luggage, prioritizing an ordinary appearance. She chose to take a public spacecraft instead of her private, armed spaceship, aiming to be an ordinary college student who would blend into the crowd. Yuka drove her LEV to K32, a strategic but run-down peripheral planet and major public transport hub. Her valuable LEV and her casual display of the space button immediately drew the attention of local criminals and bandits. including a man with formidable A+ physical strength who recognized her as rich prey. Just as Yuka finished securing her belongings, she checked her opticomputer for the public spacecraft tickets her butler was supposed to have booked. The news was bad. Tickets to Capital Octoxus were sold out. The butler, appearing on the screen, sheepishly confessed, "I got distracted watching the 10-day crash course in lady behavior and forgot to book the tickets." Yuka was left stranded on the dangerous peripheral planet, thanks to her stupid AI. Chapter 3. Yuka, stranded on K-32, was approached by a local bandit boss, Snakehead. He feigned friendliness, offering a tour guide service, but Yuka instantly saw through his rough demeanor and his A+ physical strength, recognizing him as a thief. Yuka, pretending to be a naive rich girl, led him into a secluded alley. Snakehead lunged at her with a knockout drug, but Yuka swiftly counterattacked, cracking his wrist and disarming him. Snakehead was stunned, realizing she must have formidable physical strength, possibly S-tier. In the brief standoff, Yuka summoned her orb butler and, using her psychic power, morphed it into a pink baseball bat. She quickly overpowered Snakehead, striking his jaw and ribs, leaving him injured on the ground. She then absorbed his high-grade metal knife into her butler, which was made of the same rare mecha material, onion. Before leaving, Yuka cornered the defeated Snakehead. "Didn't you say you could get me anything I wanted?" she asked, demanding a spacecraft ticket to Capital Octoxus. Snakehead reluctantly ushered Yuka into a shabby ticketing store. The counterwoman only had 2 coach-class tickets left, which Snakehead bought for 2,500 Astra credits. To protect herself and stir up chaos, Yuka dramatically played the part of a terrified rich girl in front of the other desperados in the store, announcing that her daddy would pay a 5 million Astra credit bounty to anyone who safely delivered her to Capital Octoxus. Panicked by the attention and Yuka's convincing lie, Snakehead rushed her out, desperate to get rid of the trouble she created. Yuka patted him on the shoulder, now calling him Snakey, and told him to be a better person, before leaving with her ticket. Pirate Flag Chapter 4. Yuka, using her psychic link with her orb butler, walked calmly through the bustling spaceport. She ignored a ticket scalper, noting the casual corruption and lack of security. When the spaceship doors began to close, Yuka swiftly sprinted, jumped onto the moving door, and presented her ticket to the stunned conductor. Inside the crowded, smelly coach class, Yuka sat down next to a nervous, red-eared young man. She kept her helmet on, set an alarm, and closed her eyes to rest. 6 hours into the flight, Yuka was awakened by thirst. Just as she was getting a cup of water, the spaceship was violently jolted by unexpected turbulence. Before the crew could calm the passengers, the intercom was suddenly filled with screams, gunfire and crude laughter. The ship had been boarded. A malicious voice came over the intercom, announcing, "We are space pirates. This ship is now under our control." The pirate leader then demanded that anyone who knew how to repair a spaceship come to the cockpit immediately, threatening to kill 1 person every minute until someone complied. Silence enveloped the cabin, as terrified passengers realized anyone stepping forward risked immediate death, but staying put meant eventual execution. A tattooed man, panicked by the reality of the situation, cracked, frantically trying to force others to go to the cockpit. Amidst the screaming and chaos, Yuka quietly returned to her seat, pondering one thought. If I miss the new student registration, will the school really expel me? Chapter 5. 30 seconds. 29, 28. The pirate's voice cold countdown echoed through the cabin, fueling a wave of frantic despair. Just as Yuka prepared to smash through the cabin door to handle the situation herself, a trembling voice rose beside her. I can do it. Ando Toru, the nervous boy from earlier, stood up. He was pale and shaking, but he took the first step. To save him from certain death, Yuka stood up as well. I can too, she announced, interrupting the pirates' laughter. Despite her butler's mental screaming, Yuka supported the shivering Toru as they were led away. Toru was terrified, convinced he was walking toward his execution. Meanwhile, Yuka was lost in a memory of the time she accidentally blew up her teacher's lab by crossing the wrong wires. She hoped the master of repairing title wouldn't end in another explosion. As they were marched through the ship at gunpoint, a lecherous pirate demanded that Yuka remove her helmet. Go ahead, shoot, Yuka retorted nonchalantly. But any injury will ruin my precision. If the ship isn't fixed, it'll be your fault. The pirate, stunned by her audacity, backed down for now. They passed through the gruesome carnage of the first-class cabins. While Toru became violently ill at the sight of the bodies, Yuka remained eerily calm. To lower their guard, she staged a panic attack, feigning terror and weaving through the pirates like a slippery eel when they tried to grab her. By the time they reached the cockpit, the pirates were frustrated and exhausted. The pirate leader, a scarred man with a voice like grinding stones, pointed at Yuka. You come with me. Kid, you stay here. When she's dead, it's your turn. Yuka was led through a docking corridor into the pirate's own vessel. The leader pointed to a blackened, melted mess of wires and smoking circuitry on the control panel. Fix it, he growled, cocking his gun. Yuka stared at the charred wreckage for a long moment. Can't fix it? The man threatened. No, Yuka replied slowly, looking at the disaster. I was just wondering, did you try to cook a meal on this, or did you just drop a grenade and hope for the best? Chapter 6. Held at gunpoint, Yuka feigned cooperation. The pirate leader bragged about killing an Alliance mecha soldier, mocking the weakness of students. Yuka simply listened, waiting for her moment. How can I fix it if you don't tell me what happened? She bluffed. Once she had the technical details, she ignored her butler's correct instructions and intentionally miswired the control panel. When the leader stepped closer to inspect the fix, Yuka delivered a bone-shattering punch to his ribs, dislocating his limbs and jaw with ruthless precision. With the leader incapacitated, Yuka used the intercom to lure the remaining pirates back to their ship. Once they were clear, she transformed her butler into a massive black onion sword and severed the docking corridor with a single clean strike. Trapped on their own ship, the remaining pirates opened fire. Yuka's sword shifted into a shield, deflecting every bullet. Time for melee, she chirped. The shield became a spiked hammer on a chain, which she swung with devastating force, taking down the pirates one by one. Before leaving, Yuka activated the pirate ship's self-destruct sequence. I really do have a talent for blowing things up, she mused. She grabbed the half-dead pirate leader, mounted her lev, and sped away just as the pirate vessel vanished in a brilliant fireball. Returning to the passenger ship, Yuka tossed the pirate leader into the cockpit, terrifying a confused Toru. To avoid questions and a messy hero reception, she released a sleeping drug into the air circulation system, knocking out every passenger on board. Send a distress signal to the Alliance Army once we reach the capital, Yuka instructed her butler. As the ship hummed toward its destination, the butler announced, arriving at Capital Octoxus in 7 hours. Bon voyage. Chapter 7. The Alliance Army was in a state of high alert. When the passenger ship number 3232 docked at the transfer station, elite squads were ready for a bloodbath with space pirates. Instead, they found a cabin full of peacefully sleeping citizens and one half-dead, A-tier fugitive, Black Hawk. The investigation yielded impossible results. A lone woman had boarded the pirate ship, blown it up, piloted the passenger ship home, and vanished before the army arrived. Her ticket ID? A photo of a toothless, 70-year-old man. The lieutenant, stunned, could only conclude she was an S-tier mercenary who valued her privacy. Meanwhile, Yuka had already slipped away. Swapping her blood-stained gear for a pale pink lace dress with a massive bow, she set out to achieve her ultimate goal, blending in. According to the school forums, this sweet girl look was the best way to be a low-profile ordinary student. She took a taxi to Union University of the Alliance. The chatty driver praised the elite combat department, but Yuka remained firm on her choice: history. To her, the high-stress competitive world of mecha pilots sounded like a nightmare. As she arrived at the campus gates, she walked past the welcoming booths. Vivian Lores, a senior student, had just been mocking the school's most popular dress guide, calling the pink lace dress a hideous choice that no one could pull off. Then she saw Yuka. The entire entrance fell into a stunned silence. To Vivian and her colleague Morris, Yuka didn't look like a freshman. She looked like a miracle of the creator. Ignoring the history badge Yuka hadn't even pinned on yet, Vivian rushed forward and grabbed her hand. "You're a freshman in the combat department, right?" Vivian exclaimed excitedly. "I'm your senior. Welcome to the elite." Yuka froze, her low-profile plan already crumbling before she even stepped through the door. Chapter 8. Yuka's attempt to retreat to the history department was met with a harsh reality. She had been reassigned to the elite combat department. According to the upperclassmen Vivian and Morris, the only way out was to survive a full year without failing a single class. The task seemed simple until the school dropped a bombshell announcement. For the first time in UUA history, the mecha and infantry specializations were being merged for training. High-status mecha pilots would now have to suffer through grueling physical drills, while meathead infantry students were being forced into complex mecha cockpits. The campus forum exploded in a frenzy of elitist rage and panic. But where others saw a crisis, Yuka saw a golden opportunity. The announcement stated, "Students with poor performance this semester may be kicked out of the combat department and reassigned to other modules." Yuka's eyes gleamed. She didn't need to pass, she needed to fail spectacularly. If she could prove she was completely incompetent, the school would have no choice but to kick her out and send her exactly where she wanted to go, the quiet, low-effort history department. "Butler," Yuka commanded as she headed toward the cafeteria, "give me that 10-day crash course in lady behavior." The butler was overjoyed. "Master, are you finally embracing your heritage as a lady?" "No," Yuka smirked, adjusting her pink lace dress. "Starting now, I'm going to be completely, utterly, and beautifully useless." Chapter 9. Yuka finalized her master plan: fail the combat department by being pretty but useless, get kicked into the history module, and spend the next 4 years being a lazy sloth before inheriting her family's billions. Her first test of the persona came at the cafeteria. Despite wanting to devour 5 steaks, she forced herself to take ladle-like tiny bites, while compensating with incredible speed. After lunch, she met her roommate, Iwa, a sweet mecha student who was intimidated by Yuka's heiress vibes. To put her at ease, Yuka lied smoothly, "I'm actually quite useless and I scare easily." Iwa immediately vowed to protect her, unaware she was befriending a girl who could juggle tanks. While shopping for supplies, Yuka read a terrifying forum post by upperclassmen. The merged curriculum meant mecha students would endure brutal solo combat and endurance training. The survival tip? Never say it hurts. Suddenly, a fight broke out in the store between an infantry student and a mecha student. A heavy shelf was knocked over, careening toward Yuka. She saw a golden opportunity: let the shelf hit me, get a minor injury and skip classes. She closed her eyes, smiling at the thought of a vacation. But the vacation never came. A powerful arm braced the shelf. "Still daydreaming?" a cold voice mocked. Yuka looked up to see a man with sickly pale skin, sharp features, and a mysterious black metal piece embedded in his neck. It was Kenji, an admiral of the Alliance. The boys who started the fight were terrified. When one of them complained that some idiot came up with the idea of mixing the specializations, Kenji replied with chilling calm, "I proposed it." Kenji then turned his icy gaze toward Yuka and ordered the boys to apologize. Chapter 10. As Yuka walked back to the dorms with Iwa, she learned the truth about the man she'd just met. Kuba Kenji wasn't just a cold instructor, he was a living legend. An SS-tier psychic commander who had once led 10 soldiers to defeat a pirate fleet of 100. But Kenji was also a tragic hero. He suffered from a rare genetic condition that caused his physical strength to fluctuate wildly, sometimes dropping to a frail D tier. To compensate, he wore a painful onion exoskeleton bolted directly into his bones. Handsome, strong, yet suffering, Iwa swooned. Yuka just stayed silent, thinking that handsome didn't make his biting sarcasm any easier to swallow. Back at the dorm, Yuka received a massive wire transfer from her father, 50 million credits, along with a warning: their family had ties to the Kubas. If he scolds you, just tell daddy, her father messaged. Yuka groaned. Complaining about a man who looked like he held a grudge for a living seemed like a one-way ticket to a miserable semester. The next morning, the butler woke her with its usual chaotic energy. Yuka ordered the orb to hide its physical form, merging its consciousness into her opticomputer to avoid detection. At the opening ceremony, Yuka was shocked to see a familiar face on stage. Ando Toru, the boy from the pirate ship, was the freshman representative. He had scored the highest in the Interstellar exams and joined the logistics specialization. It's a shame the pirate ship recordings were destroyed, Vivian whispered to Yuka in the crowd. I would have loved to see that 70-year-old man in action. Yuka stared at the stage, praying the world would finally stop talking about her elderly alter ego.